This is episode 53 of the Wilderness Locals podcast. On this episode, our guests are our buddy Jake Downs and Rob Lee from Bob Lee Bows. This podcast is brought to you by Kafaru International, the toughest hunting gear on the planet, bar none. Frontiersman gear, high quality, completely custom handmade knives made in the heart of the Peace Country. And as always, we're brought to you by Just Shooting Arrows, BC's premier archery shop. How you guys doing?
We're doing great. You doing okay?
We're good. So we'll just go around here so everybody knows who's who. I'm Tyler.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Wasey up in Canada.
And then you guys obviously know Jake.
That's correct. I've met him a couple times.
A thorn in everybody's side.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it, not me. He keeps me busy trying to keep bows in his hand.
You're supposed to be selling other folks' bows.
Oh, I know. But, when you have a guy out there that, 1 pound makes a difference, you have to keep building until you get it just right.
That's right. Mm-hmm. That's right. That 1 pound could mean the difference between an animal or not an animal.
That's right.
That's awesome.
What bow are you shooting, Jake, right now? Hardcore?
No, I'm shooting the new. We came out with a model called the Shikari, which I guess that means hunter in Swahili, right, Rob?
Hindi.
Yeah. It's just a little more. It's like a hardcore. It's all micarta. It's a micarta riser, and we kind of sleeked it down a bit, and then we're shooting it. It basically, I wanted a model that was just all micarta and just came with all the bells and whistles, that Rob offers, which is the new carbon limbs, the Cobra Curve limbs. It's got a hidden Stavalok system. And I like it because it's super and it's durable, and you could throw a little bit of flair on it with your color choice. That's about the only customization you get is a little bit of accent color, which I love. That's all I want to do. Throw a little orange on it or gray and get it in my hands to start putting blood on it.
It looks.
Yeah, we tried to build a model of that would be as bulletproof as possible for guys like Jake that are fixing to go on a very expensive hunt. The last thing you want is issues with your equipment.
Yeah, it looks unreal. Yeah. And Jake, you were saying those Cobra Curve limbs just rip, eh?
Yeah, man. They're just for reference, I had to cut. So I went from a 54-pound bow to a 52-pound bow, and I had to cut almost an inch off my arrow to make it tune right.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's and I'm kind of different. I run a little bit higher brace height. I mean, I could probably get a little more speed out of it, but I'm not a speed guy. Like, I don't really care about speed. I'm more about I didn't want the carbon limbs for speed. I like it, free speed. That's great, but I wanted them for durability, and I don't know how it's possible, but it's actually quieter than the original limb. It's the quietest bow I've ever been around. I mean, every single person says that, but it's the truth. And everybody that's shot with me is just like, holy cow, that thing is dead quiet.
Yeah,
I agree with everything Jake just said. It's a very efficient limb, and I've been shooting a bow all my life, and I've never shot anything like it.
That's wicked. What is developing a new limb look like? Like when you guys are coming up with a completely new model and a new limb, what's that process like?
Well, I had the benefit of drawing from another source, a man that has a lot of knowledge with composites. I had played with carbon in the past and just wasn't a fan of it. It just didn't add anything to our original limb design. And to be able to have as much curve as this new limb has, you have to have a lot of side-to-side structure. And that's where this carbon comes into play, because it's a cross weave and it has a lot of side-to-side structure that glass doesn't. So by being able to add a lot more recurve to the limb itself, obviously you're picking up more energy. And the biggest negative that I have with a lot of the carbon limbs that are out there is they're noisy and they have a lot of vibration. But ours doesn't. I mean, it's extremely dead in the hand and a lot more efficient. With the testing we've done on a actual shooting machine, it's 10 to 12 feet per second faster than our current limb. So that crosses over to about 5 to 7 pounds of draw weight that you're not having to control. And it's a plus on all ends.
Yeah, I concur with all that.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest problems I ever had too with curved limbs, was the vibration that it threw out. It was insane. Some of the bows I had, I actually ended up, one of the bows I had I kept cracking the riser. It was a nonstop thing.
Well, that's one of the reasons for the phenolic handle, the micarta. It's basically as strong as aluminum, but it has a pattern to it. The way they produce that material, it's done in real thin layers of linen. So when they press it, and then a bowyer like ourselves, when you shape something, it has like a wood grain look to it.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it looks better than a metal riser. It's just, but it's bulletproof. I mean, it's like a bowling ball material. You're not going to break it. I'm not a fan of wooden risers.
Mm-hmm.
We've built hundreds or thousands of them. But Mother Nature, there can be flaws inside of a piece of wood that you don't know is there. And you get a bow that's a high stress item. The last thing you want is your handle to come apart. So if a customer will let me, I'm going to lead him in the direction that when we build him a bow, it's going to last him.
Yeah, I concur with that. Most people that know me know that I'm not a fan of wood risers. I've had, that's really why I ended up coming to Rob, is I've had every single wood riser I've ever owned crack. The only one that I have that's not cracked is one of Rob's. It's my wife's bow, but she don't shoot it much, so that may be part of the problem. But
and it's a lightweight bow.
And it's a lightweight bow. Yep. No, I had every single one of my bows crack. I had one crack within a month of going to Alaska for the first time. I had one crack on a hunt one time, and after that I was just done. And that's when I started looking for another option.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Wood is beautiful, and that's one of the downsides of like even what we build, a micarta handle. But we have models that we put enough wood on it that it makes an attractive bow. Mm-hmm. But the strength factor is what I'm after. The only way I want to see one of the bows that we build is a picture of the guy that owns it with something that he killed or a tournament he won. I don't want it back in his shop.
That makes a lot of sense. Some of these new phenolics, like the Lin and micarta and G10, it's crazy. Some of the patterns and stuff that they're starting to come out with now. When you look towards the knife world, so it'll be interesting to see what you guys do here. Maybe getting into some layered patterns and stuff like that, and
right.
Some composites that have some real cool funky grain to them might be neat.
Yeah, I don't know if you've been on our website to look at some of the different models, but Jake mentioned a hardcore model, and it has wood on the outside. The main vertically, the handle is micarta, but it's an attractive bow. We build some bows that have the heel portion of the handle is wood. We try to build an attractive bow, but I don't want to say our bows are meat and potatoes, but they're workhorses, and they're meant to stay together.
I think both me and Wasey have spent a good chunk of time on your guys' website looking at everything.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Right. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to touch on the Stavalok system and kind of how you guys came up with that quick. If you got.
Well, that was actually produced when my dad had wing archery back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. They actually started a foundry here in Jacksonville where they poured magnesium, and they made magnesium risers handles. And when they were doing that, they came up with this wedge design that the wedge bolted to the limb that slid into the handle. And that's basically what we're doing right now. Although we have upped the game some, we tweaked the design and made it a little more user friendly. It's a tool-free way to put your bow together. So when you're off on a hunt, you can pack in, you slide your limbs into the handle, string your bow, and you're ready to go. It also, by adding the weight of the wedge that's on the limb itself to each end of the handle, it's like having many stabilizers on your handle. It really settles the bow down.
Yeah, that's the main thing. It's awesome to be able to slide that baby together, but where that weight is placed, it definitely, it's weight in the right spot for sure.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I'm a huge fan of no tools in the field. I love any bow that's the Stavalok system.
Well, within the last year, we've upped that game just a little bit by having what we call a conceal cap. When you're looking at the bow, you don't see any limb bezels or bolts. Everything is attached. The wedge is attached from below. So it makes a lot slimmer, trimmer side profile look of the bow.
Mm-hmm. I did notice that, and that looks real sharp.
Thank you.
I was just kind of maybe hoping to touch on some of the history on Bob Lee too. I know I've studied up on your guys' history quite a bit, and maybe if you wanted to run through that quick.
Well, I mean, it's my dad started building bows in 1951 in his garage in Houston, Texas, and took it from that point to being one of the three majors in the 50s, 60s, and 70s and archery manufacturing. He sold his company to Head Ski Corporation in 1967 and stayed on as CEO. And Head Ski, from what I understand, got in some financial difficulties and sold to AMF. And AMF bought it and kind of did what they did with the rest of the companies they own, like Harley Davidson. They basically ran it in the ground. Mm-hmm. But in Wing's heyday, they were building 300 plus bows a day. Oh. And at our shop now, we build bow and a half, 2 bows a day. So we're on the other end of the spectrum now. We build a hands-on custom bow where, that was more of a mass-produced type bow. And my dad just passed away earlier this year, and he's been involved in archery his whole adult life. There's a lot of history with him as a person. He'll be missed, but our plans are to carry on and bigger and better.
Yeah. Sorry to hear about your dad passing this year.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. I lost my mother and my dad in about a 4-month period. So, that's tough.
Yeah, very tough. Sorry to hear.
But Dad was the first one to produce a 3-piece bow. There were 2-piece bows out there with a socket, that put the bow together. But by doing a 3-piece bow, you had the option of different length limbs, different weight limbs, one handle. I mean, the options go on and on. Mm-hmm. And we produced 1-piece bows here at Lee Archery up until, 9 or 10 years ago, and dropped them from the line. I just feel like a 3-piece is a lot better piece of equipment. You have a lot more options, and to me, they shoot better because of the mass weight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's cool. When did go ahead, Wace?
Yeah, and I was just going to say your guys' Stavalok system. It's real accurate, right? How I kind of always worried about some recurves with that alignment pin system. Things kind of fit a little bit loose sometimes, but
this is by far as far as being truly aligned. I mean, it's dead nuts. Yeah. Even on our bolt-up models, I mean, we use inserts in the handle that extend out about 50 thousandths. So your limb sits down on them, and you have a 2-bolt system on each limb. So there is no pin. I've never really understood that design, because with a pin and a bolt, you have, to me, I feel like you have room for that limb to be able to move minutely.
Definitely. Yep.
And for especially a recurve, everything has to be precision, or you're going to have limb twist and bows wanting to unstring themselves, and the list goes on and on. So there's nothing wrong with our bolt-up system. It's just our Stavalok is a superior model.
When did you guys come up with the hardcore? Because that seems to be that. I guess that was kind of your guys' bread and butter for a while, right? Now that the Shikari's out, I think a lot of guys will be going that way. But I mean, that was always the bow that I always heard about in my circles, Lee hardcore,
Well, that's that model came to be. I always have liked my Carta because of the strength, mm-hmm. but I also understand the beauty of wood, and we came up with that model because it does give you the best of both worlds. Vertically, the main portion of your handle is my Carta, but you have enough wood on each side, and then when we shape it, it leaves good looking patterns, and you have the look of wood. It's still our most popular model. And these Cobra limbs, you can put them on any of the handles that we offer it. It doesn't just have to be that Shikari. The Shikari came to be with myself and Jake and my wife sitting at the kitchen table here at the shop, trying to come up with a model that was easier for a customer to order. Not so many choices. You can have so many choices of veneers and overlays and limb tips and that type of deal that it gets confusing. And this is, red, green, gray. There's not a lot of options with that model.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's for murdering, guys.
Yeah.
That's what that bow is for. It's for blood red. You cover that micarta and that carbon with blood. That's what it's used for.
I mean, it speaks to my sensibilities. I like a to the point setup. You know what I mean?
My dad told me one day that, and it's when we first started offering all the different veneers on our glass limbs. You know, he told me, he said, you're giving people too many choices. It's getting confusing for them. And I said, well, I disagree with that. And he said, you know, it's like walking into an ice cream shop. If you have vanilla and chocolate or swirl, it's easy to make up your mind. But you walk into Baskin and Robbins and, you know, you're liable to stand there for 30 minutes trying to figure out what ice cream you want.
That's the truth. The world starts spinning.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, that bow's wicked. And Jake, you got some stuff on the ground with it already?
Actually, that's kind of funny. So when I went down there, I picked it up. We finished it up. Actually, I didn't do anything. I just kind of took pictures and watched Rob finish off the rest and get everything finished up for me. And then I took it and shot 3 animals with it like the next day, or not the next day, but we went, I was going from there with my buddy Clay that lives right by Rob. And we went down and hunted a ranch. I shot 2 pigs and one of them little feral sheep things. I've got quite a bit of stuff, you know, I mean, the Shikari itself, I've shot, you know, turkeys and stuff. I haven't had an actual fall with it yet, but last year, I think I got the cobra limbs in October. And so I've been using those ever since. So everything I've shot up since then. And that was the same deal. I actually got those, put them on, shot a little bit, and I shot a big white, that big white 3-point that I shot last year. I shot it like within the same week. So yeah, it's awesome. With those cobra limbs, Jake, how does the draw cycle feel? Kind of pretty smooth all the way through? Yeah. See, and that's the difference. I think, you know, the way Rob, I mean, I'm not going to speak to the technical side of the things, but you know, when Rob was building those, he could have made them, you know, even curvier. I guess they're technically a super curved limb, but they're not quite as curved as a lot of them. And we put it on a draw board, and it's pretty even gain all the way through. You can speak to that a little bit more, Rob, if you've done more testing on that end, but it feels super smooth to me. There's no let off like some, or whatever they call, you know, some of them limbs, the way the draw cycle works towards the back end, you're drawing less.
They get spongy at the back end. And for myself, and evidently for a lot of other people too, I don't particularly like that feel. You know,
I don't either.
I like it to be consistent all the way back to my anchor point, and that kind of lets me know that I am at full draw. Mm-hmm. You know, if you have a limb that starts letting off, it's hard to tell when you've actually, you know, come through that cycle. When we were first looking at building this limb, I was looking at a competitor's bow. I mean, and I just didn't want that much curve. I mean, I feel, and I may be wrong, but I feel like that's where some of these limbs pick up their vibration, and vibration turns into noise. This limb, it'll do everything you want to do. When we were first getting into this, I finally built a set of limbs that was of a draw weight that I can handle. And I'd been shooting a 55-pound glass limb bow. And these Cobra limbs were 47 pounds, and we started testing them against my 55-pound bow, and it was shooting the same speed and sometimes a couple feet per second faster than my 55-pound bow, and that was enough for me. I mean, if you can get away with a bow that's comfortable and you've been sitting somewhere for 3 hours and finally get a shot at an animal, the last thing you want to do is to be in a strain. Mm-hmm. So it's a win-win.
What's the recommended strings that you guys are putting on those right now?
Well, we send them out with a D97 fast flight string. I know that, there's a lot of customers that get different brand strings that are probably made out of different materials, but the D97 for us has always been the quietest. We've tried other members of the fast flight family, and most of those materials have what the only way I can describe it is like a metallic ding when it goes off, and this D97 doesn't. It's more like Dacron on how quiet it is. So that's kind of what we stuck with. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of manufacturers of strings that they claim to make your bow a couple of feet per second faster, but to me, that's a 16th of an inch to draw. If you creep a little, trying to gain a couple, 2 or 3 feet per second is minute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I never understood that with the speed. I'd rather have just the quietness of it,
Oh, me too. I've always said a deer doesn't care whether he was shot with a bow that was shooting 160 feet per second or one that was shooting 190 feet per second. It's you got to hit them, and they need to be there when the air gets there too. So quiet's everything to me.
Yeah, sound is everything. I know the speed of sound is 11 or 1,200 feet per second. Yeah, so if you're not shooting that, don't worry about it.
Yeah,
that's right.
100%.
That's correct.
Well, awesome. I wanted to touch on the Abyss too a little bit.
Okay.
Abyss was kind of always one of my favorite bows that you guys made. Can you just maybe touch on that bow quick?
It's just a solid black bow. I mean, with a glass limb, it's black glass. What we call the cap, where your limb bolts are, it's black. The limb tips are black. Everything about it is black. Yep. And we did that model basically to try to offer a bow that was a little less expensive. And clear glass costs more than black glass, and then obviously you don't have limb veneers, so that's a savings. But that was a popular model. We have dropped a few of our models just trying to simplify the ordering process, and it makes it easier for us too. We're more of a custom shop than anything, but if we're building a bow for like yourself and you wanted 50 pounds and it's strung up too heavy to begin with or too light, we can build a stock bow out of it, finish it out, and start over on a custom bow. So by not having so many models, we don't have so many orphan limbs in the shop. Mm-hmm. We're a small shop. Right now, there's 5 of us that actually work in the production end of things, and my wife heads up the office, and we're just a small little bow shop, make a lot of sawdust.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
That's super cool. What's your guys's, with the models you have now, like with the signature Blackhawk Hardcore, Ultimate, and the Shikari, and then you guys have a longbow too, right?
Right.
What's sort of the longest running bow that you guys have had, maybe without changes?
Well, that would be the wooden handle bows, like the signature series that we offer, Babingo or Sedgwa in the handle. But other than that, I would have to say that the Hardcore has been the most popular model in recent years. Mm-hmm. we build a lot of those for good reason. I mean, it's a sharp looking rod, and there are guys out there that, you know, and I'm one of them. I mean, you know, if it's a gun or a fishing rod or whatever, I pretty much save my coins till I can get the best that they build.
100%.
Yeah. Okay, have we covered the bases on bows? Let's talk hunting.
Sounds good.
Yeah. You probably want to talk to Jake about hunting. He's one that he does way more hunting than I do.
You know, I
love to hunt.
I talk to Jake all the time. I can't get the guy to leave us alone, you know?
Right.
That's right. That's right.
We've never had you on the phone here. So I'm curious about what you get after, Rob, and what JJ gets after, and you know, what's what is.
Well, I mean, we're Texas boys, so obviously whitetail, but we are absolutely covered up with pigs. So pigs is, you know, that's a year-round sport. It can be hot and there can be mosquitoes, but you know, if you're man enough, you can still be hunting them. It's legal. So we stay after hogs quite a bit, but I do my share of whitetail hunting too. Nice. I mean, as far as exotics go, I've killed a couple all-dad. I killed a real nice nilgai bull. Was lucky enough to get invited to hunt on the King Ranch in South Texas, and killed a mature nilgai with a 57-pound recurve.
Oh wow!
But I've been fortunate on my deer hunting. Being in the business I am, a lot of them are invitation hunts, and you know, I get to fish in the right ponds. So I've killed quite a few Pope and Young bucks. My biggest buck, as far as gross score, was a 181. Killed one that was 172, and you know, I'm not done yet.
Yeah.
Got to hunt Missouri last year, which was fun. You know, soybean and corn, we don't grow much of that around here, so it was cool getting to go. You know, they're still whitetail, but hunting in different part of the country.
That's awesome.
The hog shooting down there is probably good for testing bows, I'd imagine.
Oh, it is. You know, a lot of guys get to do a lot of elk hunting and all, but for me, a mature boar hog, if you can get an exit wound on them at 20 yards, you're doing things right. I mean, they're a very, very tough animal, thick skinned, fat, a lot of gristle. So testing your setup, that's a good way to do it.
Mm-hmm. And it gets you lots of string time too. That's a lot of things. That's a thing that a lot of guys don't get the opportunity at is actual.
It does. Yeah. Yeah. You get to stay in tune year round. And, you know, I feel like some people that have never spent any time around hogs, you know, they probably feel like they're a stupid animal, but they are far from that. You know, if you kill a mature hog, you've done something with a stick and a string, in my opinion. You know, their nose is second to none, and they're not near as blind as what a lot of people think they are. So, you know, it's a trophy to me. I'm still trying to kill one that would be worthy of putting on the wall.
What's your go-to broadhead that you're using?
I'm cheap. I mainly shoot a Magnus Stinger. You know, especially on pigs, I'm not going to shoot them with a very expensive broadhead because you may not see it again. Probably good chances you're not going to see it again.
Yeah, no kidding.
100%.
They're real tough, eh? Like up here where I am in BC, you know, we don't really have hogs. There are like occasional sightings of them, but they're usually not far from where they came from, right?
Right.
And when I hear you guys talking about you know, chasing hogs here, and I'm like, man, that would be fun. But don't they just they wreak a lot of havoc on the landscape, eh?
Oh, they do. You know, I'm not in the ranching business, but the guys that are around here that, they grow hay for a living and they raise cattle and all, they hate them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fairly easy to be able to go on property and hunt them. And that sport is, it's evolving. I mean, there's a lot of guys are using handheld thermals now and spot and stalk at night. It's a blast.
That would be fun.
No kidding. That's awesome. What do you have planned this year? I mean, doing some whitetailing. Do you get out of state much?
I really don't. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people use the excuse, but I'm busy. I mean, most weeks I'm working, 6, maybe 7 days a week. We, our backlog or timeline on a custom build is farther out than I've ever had it. And I don't like that. I mean, we're having to tell customer now it's 5 to 6 months. And, I'm trying to gear up where we can get more bows out the door and still keep the same quality where we don't have that long of a lead time. But to answer your question, I'm going back to Missouri this year, to the place I went last year. It's a customer / friend of mine that owns a piece of property up there, and we had a good time. I killed a nice buck. Hopefully I get to do it again. But other than that, it's here in Texas. I mean, I'll be after the whitetail for sure.
Nice.
I think I talked to lots of different bowyers, with Tolkies and Wangard and all them guys. Right, it seems like everybody is saying what you're saying right now. Everybody's just behind, and it's just must be which tells me that there must be lots of guys ordering bows, I guess. Well,
the good news is for guys like Winger and myself and Black Widow, I mean, I can keep on naming, companies that build quality bows. There's a lot of what I consider young guns. I don't know what your age is, but, these 30 and 40-year-old guys that are, they're more technical than my group was, but they're interested in traditional archery. So with that being said, it's very much a growing end of the industry. Our last couple of years have been our best years ever, and I don't really see that stopping. Hopefully, it keeps getting better.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. So how did Jake? Go ahead, Weiss. Go ahead.
I just wanted to swing back to Missouri because I know there's some slammer bucks that get killed out of Missouri, and it's kind of the biggest 4-point I've ever seen on TV came out of Missouri, and it's amazing some of the deer they're pulling out of there.
The part of Missouri that I hunted last year, and obviously it'll be the same this year, is in the southwestern corner. Everybody thinks of Kansas with the monster whitetails, and this part of Missouri is the same landscape and just as much agriculture. So those big boys live there too. I mean, this friend of mine that I'm hunting on his property, he keeps trail cams out all year, and we would sit there at night looking at, pick after pick after pick, just giant bucks, most of them nocturnal, but if you hit it right during the rut, you've got a good chance of sticking one of them. And good news is 8,500 acre refuge is right across the road from his property. So there's a lot of country and a lot of animals to draw from.
Awesome. Good.
I was just gonna say, Jake, when did you get on the Bob Lee train? How did that happen?
That's actually a pretty funny story. I didn't know Rob. I heard the name Bob Lee, but I was shooting a Palmer because anybody that knows me knows I'm a big Fred Eichler fan. And so I was shooting a Palmer and got to hanging out with Aaron. And the first time me and Aaron went and did something together, I went out and hung out with him at his house, and he's like, "Hey, we're going to do a big bow test." I was like, "Oh, that's cool." So he had bows from like every bowyer. We had a Wengard, we had my bow, we had Stalker, we had Rob's bow, Black Widow, and I think there was maybe a couple other ones. I can't really remember, but by the end of the weekend, I had fallen in love with the hardcore that Aaron had. And I actually took it home. Aaron, as everybody knows, is a Black Widow guy. And he was it sounded kind of like he was torn between the two, but he just stuck with the Widow, which I was actually excited about, because then he was like, "Yeah, man, just take that home and I'll call Rob and tell him to get a hold of you and you guys work something out." And so, yeah, Rob called me, and from the first day he called, I don't know, he's a salt of the earth guy. I didn't know him. He didn't know me. And, we've never had any kind of a business relationship in that, where, it was like, "Hey, you do this, promote me, and we'll do this for you, blah, blah, blah." It was just "Hey, man, we need to get a bow in your hands." It was a very organic thing. And that's how I wanted to, I fell in love with his bow, and it turns out he was, honestly, I talked to Rob like at least once a week. Lately he's been super busy. So we and I have too, but ever since that first conversation, we've probably talked on the phone at least once a week, every week since then. And, he just take care of anything. If I have a question, he answers it through text or whatever. I can't say enough about these guys, and that's not a sales pitch. Rob's a friend of mine now. And the cool thing is they make the best bow, in my opinion. There's a lot of good bows out there, but it fits the bill for what I want, which is it's durable, it's quiet, and really that's all there is for me. It fits in my hand just right. So.
Well, it doesn't hurt on the manufacturing end to have a bow in a killer's hand, and that's what Jake is. He just is. And I know he could do it with other brands, but obviously he chose us. I didn't choose him, and I think that's the reason that we have a good relationship. I do help Jake. There's no doubt. I don't make any qualms about it. He represents the company and does a good job of it.
Awesome.
Yeah, no kidding. It's kind of hard to beat the R&D in the field that you get from a guy like Jake, right? That being said,
that's true.
I'm sure Jake could get it done with a slingshot, but there's a lot. Probably,
I don't know about that. I think you guys are giving me a little too much credit.
We're just being nice to you because you're here, man.
Well, I appreciate it.
You want me to boot him off here, Rob? You can say whatever you want, man.
Yeah. No, those guys have always taken good care of me, but I've had a lot of people say that, I'm sponsored or whatever. And technically I am, but, like Rob said, he didn't call me and say, "Hey, will you come shoot this bow?" It was I picked his bow out of a lineup of awesome bows. All those companies I talked about are amazing bows. I've shot them all. I'm friends with those guys.
Mm-hmm.
That's the funny thing. And South Black Widow guys are cool. Like, that's the cool thing about archery is everybody's kind of friend. And I've never ever had, like, I just got done shooting with South this last week, and I've never had him eyeball me about shooting a Bob Lee, never say anything, never even jokingly.
Mm-hmm.
It's all so, it's so personal preference. And those guys know that. And it's a little bit different than the compound world, where if you shoot Matthews or Hoyt, you're the devil or whatever, So
that's a really cool thing about traditional archery. And all like I said, all those bowyers are amazing. And I chose Rob's, and that's when I say an organic meeting, that's it. I didn't have any, and I don't know. I mean, like I said, I shot a Palmer forever, and it has a similar grip, and maybe that's why I chose it. But yeah, I don't know. It's been awesome, and I've shot a lot of animals with it, and I'm hoping to shoot a lot more.
I think
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Rob. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, in the traditional manufacturing world, I don't know about the other companies, but myself, if you look at the world as a whole, it's a great big pie. I just want a slice of it. I can't build all the bows that people want, but I want enough to keep me busy and make a living. So I never have badmouth any other companies. I'm actually really close friends with the guys at Black Widow. Mm-hmm. Just about any of the other manufacturers that I've got to meet in person, they're squared away, down to earth people. So, they just want their part. I want my part.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, for about a decade there, I owned a manufacturing business, and a lot of my closest competitors also became my closest friends because we would go back and forth with each other. And I mean, I'm not sure if you guys do this with woods and stuff, but we were dealing in alloys, and we would definitely drive the cost of stuff down by putting orders together and helping each other source stuff and all kinds of stuff, man. It's
exactly,
you can build a sense of community with your competitors, and it turns into a positive space then, we were just talking about this on a podcast recently that in hunting, it seems like there's these niches where, people kind of turn on each other because they're not, like Jake said, you're shooting a Hoyt, I'm shooting a Matthews. We can't be buddies, right? It's like, right. You see that in traditional archery, but more from more from a social media aspect where, some guys, if you're shooting trad veins, it's the end of the world too. Right. But, I don't know, man. It's a cool thing to watch from an outside perspective. You guys, with a family business that are swamp busy and putting out really good products that you're passionate about. Right.
True.
I mean, it definitely, when you hear those stories, that's sort of, that's one of the ways I make my decisions on what I want to buy, right? Like if it's good people doing good stuff, then I'm definitely more liable to spend my money there, right?
Exactly. I'm the same way.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, the Shikari kind of just came out. I think we're a few months from it, right? 4 or 5 months from when you guys came out with it. Is it too soon to ask what else is coming down the line?
It probably is. I mean,
yeah.
We're so covered up with what we're doing. Most of my ideas, come to me at night. I'll have something on my mind and wake up in the morning and have a solution for it. But, new innovations, it happens when I'm working. If I'm building a bow and, all of a sudden I start looking at it and I think of something to make it look better or be better, I go with it. Mm. We don't try to come out with a new model every year. It's, just kind of flying by the seat of your pants type of deal.
Yeah, no, that's good.
And it didn't hurt that I grew up Bob Lee's son. I learned a lot from that man.
One of the great things about hunting and being in the outdoors for me is, sitting around the campfires and just kind of BSing like we're doing now, right?
Exactly.
And with you, like you said, growing up being Bob Lee's son, whenever I think about Bob Lee, the first thing that comes to mind is that photo your dad with the caribou and and his bow there, right?
Epic photo.
The most epic photo, yeah. There must have been some pretty good stories growing up with your dad there, eh?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's where I learned to hunt. My mother was involved heavily in the wing years, and she also hunted. So, I mean, when I was still basically a toddler, I would be in a ground blind with my mother and trying to kill a whitetail. She never connected, but we had a lot of fun shooting at them, or she did. But, it was just in my blood. I mean, from the time I could pull a bow and, start shooting, my main goal was to kill a whitetail. And I've been working on that ever since. It's just, it's a big part of what drives me. I love to hunt. Don't necessarily have to kill one every time I get in a tree, but it does help to connect.
When your dad was, I mean, that caribou photo, I imagine that's somewhere up here out west, right? Did you ever go on any of those Western hunts with him?
No, I didn't. I mean, I went to Colorado 2 or 3 times with him. I never have killed an elk. I got a shot at one real pretty bull, and he's about 50 yards and shot right over the top of his back. But that was the only time that I ever had a shot at one.
Mm-hmm.
I hope to kill one while I'm still young enough to get around and shoot a bow that's of a hunting weight.
Mm-hmm.
But I would have to carve out, enough time to do it. And that's my problem nowadays. It's a double-edged sword. You want to be busy, but I'm not sure I want to be quite as busy as I am right now.
Is JJ on the tools there too, or just you and the boys in the back?
No, JJ is very much a part of what goes on in the back.
Nice.
We have a CNC milling machine, and he operates that, among other things. I mean, here in the shop, we all wear a bunch of different hats. But at the end of the day, we have produced. It's
Nice.
more of a family setting. I know that sounds kind of honky, but it really is. I mean, the guys that are here, we all get along, and we cut up and joke, but we also work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hey, was it a story I heard once about somebody got the box of truck got an arrow in it in your guys' parking lot one time? Was that there?
Not here.
No, it must have been a different bowyer than I heard a story. I thought it was maybe you guys talking about it.
My dad had a real good friend back in the day that shot an arrow straight up in the air, and it came down through and went through the roof of his Cadillac in the driveway.
Oh.
That was the fact.
Maybe that was the story I heard somewhere.
Yeah, maybe.
That's
now,
fine.
you were talking about that photo of Dad, on the little delta with a caribou. He killed 2 caribou on that trip, but I still look at that photo. The Red Wing Hunter that he used, he had a bow quiver on it, but he had it taped on there with basically white tape.
Yeah,
and,
I'm looking at
his
it right
arrows
now.
were all white. And, what he was wearing was what he was hunting in. So, the industry has taken us down a road where, everything has to be extremely camoed and all, but that may not be the case. It's a cool photo, though. That's just about everybody I meet mentions that.
Camos for humans.
That was in 1958, and flying into Alaska in a bush plane was quite the adventure then. I'm sure it still is, but that was fairly early on.
That's awesome. Yeah, that photo is so cool. Yeah, Jake, camo is for humans for sure, eh?
Yeah, it's cool, but
Yeah.
it's for humans.
It's a bit of fashion these days, I think.
Yeah.
But let's be honest. I think Bob looks cooler than any of us would in that outfit there. I don't think Wasey would fit in that stuff.
So, well, your dad, he was inducted into the Archery Hall of Fame as well.
Archery Hall of Fame and the Bow Hunting Hall of Fame. He's a double inductee.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
He was one of the founders of Pope and Young. Very instrumental in getting an archery only season in the state of Texas. He had been there and done that. We have the archery community has a lot that they owe to those pioneers. I mean, I'm not saying that we're not all still striving to, have better hunting opportunities and all, but they set the pace for what's happened now, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%. Yep.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, I think we probably covered the bases here. Hey guys.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for sharing our morning coffees with us here. And
y'all had coffee?
Yeah, sorry, you didn't.
That isn't right.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think I got on here at 6:30 my time with Jake, and Jake's like, it's not early. I'm like, dude, half asleep.
Yeah, you were whining. I'm still tired. I was like, Jesus, I've been up for like 4 hours. What are you doing?
You're in your basement running on a treadmill and all kinds of stuff. I was in my bed having sweet dreams about chasing elk and all kinds of stuff.
That's funny.
Well, if you guys ever get to Texas, you better stop by.
Oh, you know it.
Definitely.
Yeah. That's a trip we'll be making at some point for sure.
Well, good deal. We'll put you on a pig.
For sure. I always wanted, that was always kind of a dream hunt of mine, was going down to Texas and hunting pigs. Sounds like a blast.
Well, come on. We'll put you on one.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and leave us a review. If you want to support the podcast, please check out the gear on our website at wildernesslocals.net.